The media, always right and never wrong, except from when they are. And to be fair, they tend to be, quite a lot. Football and sport in general has always been very popular for newsreaders. Many media consumers prefer to skip all of the political and social nonsense in the papers so that they can forget about all of their problems, just to be reminded that their club lost 3-1 on the back page. All jokes aside, it's very hard to get sports coverage wrong. This team scored this amount, the other didn't, here's who played well and who was bad. Easy, right? Well, of course, in true media fashion, each company has to outdo the other to gain a maximum audience for a maximum profit. So that inevitably leads to a who can push the boundaries of what's true and false and what's right and wrong the furthest competition. And over the years, this has caused some of the biggest scandals in the UK media's history that still haunt these companies to this day. The first scandal takes us all the way back to the 80s, when during an FA Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest, 97 fans were killed and 766 were injured after police negligence and error allowed for extreme overcrowding in the stands.
2:52, with the crowds building and kick-off drawing closer, the police made the decision to open the exit gate. Over the course of 5 minutes, 2,000 fans streamed through, with most of them heading straight to the centre pens.
To cover their involvement in the disaster, South Yorkshire Police fed the press false stories implying that football hooliganism and drunkenness from the fans had been the primary factor in the tragedy. However, the public outrage came from the Sun's coverage of the situation. On the 19th of April 1989, the newspaper published a front-page story with the headline, "The Truth," containing numerous false claims and allegations, stating that Liverpool supporters were responsible for the incident, as the South Yorkshire Police had conveyed. This absolutely murdered the Sun's reputation in the area, as protesters boycotted, burned, and resented the paper, and it never recovered. Sales of the Sun in the region are estimated to have dropped from 55,000 per day to 19,000 per day, although this could also be attributed to falling readership in general. Journalists from the paper have also been denied access to interviews at Liverpool and Everton facilities, and economically, in 2014 it was estimated that the boycott had cost the owners of the Sun £15 million per month in 1989 terms since the disaster. And to close this case, in 2024 it was found out that the tabloids' coverage of the disaster formed part of the materials used to train British members of Parliament in how to identify misinformation. This was a case of the Sun being architects of their own downfall, and this event no doubt has hurt their already plummeted reputation in the UK. The next scandal is something we've seen all too often with the UK media, and it won't be the last time we cover it today. In 2004, football pundit and former manager Ron Atkinson resigned from ITV after being exposed on a live microphone, referring to Chelsea centre-back Marcel Desailly with a racial slur. I'm not going to show you what he said, but it's out there if you want to see. And although Ron thought that the mic was off, the fact that he thought saying something like that was even remotely acceptable proves that the guy is just a racist. But yes, you can't blame ITV for an individual person's hate. However, you can blame them for not running more checks on a guy who does have previous allegations of racially abusing people. No media company suffered greatly from this, but Ron did, as he lost his place in ITV and The Guardian. The next scandal wasn't exclusive to football. In the early 2010s, now dissolved magazine News of the World, owned by Rupert Murdoch, was exposed for hacking into voicemail messages of public figures to gain private insight into their lives. These included various politicians, actors, and of course, footballers. For example, calls between Ashley Cole and his wife were accessed to spread rumours and stories about troubles in the relationship. This led to the left back suing against News Group newspapers, which ended in an undisclosed financial success for Cole. And he wasn't the only one to take legal action. During his testimony, Paul Gascoigne highlighted the effects the scandal had had on the former player's mental state, after stating that he became paranoid, believed his friends had betrayed him, and suffered serious psychological distress. He said, and I quote, "I couldn't speak to anyone, I couldn't sleep. I was scared to talk even to my family. I thought I was going mad." These were only two examples, but eventually dozens of footballers received damages from News Group newspapers. News of the World was also forced to shut down due to the public outrage.
Rupert Murdoch's News Corp will shut down the century-old News of the World tabloid. The paper is at the center of a phone hacking scandal that has the government and people of Britain in an uproar.
And the scandal triggered the Leveson inquiry into press ethics. It also raised many questions as people wonder whether companies in Rupert Murdoch's media empire were secretly trading private information. And overall, these events caused the public and celebrities to lose a lot of trust in traditional media. Racism has always been prominent in the media, and although things have changed for the better, biases are still far too common. Many point out the differences in the ways that black players are treated by the media compared to white British ones. It seems as though young black players are brought up by the media just so they can end up shooting them down when they reach the top. For example, Bukayo Saka, who was already crucified after his Euro 2020 final penalty miss, was inexplicably plastered across many front pages across various media outlets after a 1-0 loss to Iceland in a Euro 2024 warm-up game, despite the fact that the winger did not even start the game and was only subbed on in the 65th minute. The guy wasn't even on for Iceland's goal, for fuck's sake. This cover from Star Sport is just blatant subliminal racism.
Who do you think was the face of England's loss in the media last night? Do you think it was maybe Harry Kane, captain of the team, Mr. Sitter, Phil Foden, PFA Player of the Year, Cole Palmer, the new kid on the block, Declan Rice, arguably had the best game of anyone in England. John Stones could be injured, that would be awful. Ramsdale made a big mistake. No, it was Saka. The kid that came on with 25 minutes to go when England were already 1-0 down. The BBC, Saka. CBS, Saka. The Sun, Saka. The Telegraph, Saka. The Daily Mail, Saka. TalkSport, Saka.
You'd think in 2024 the media would have learned, but clearly not, showing that much more has to be done. But there may not be any feud between the player and the media as big as there was in Raheem Sterling's case. The winger was genuinely being bombarded with racially motivated negativity from the press wherever you looked for a good period of time during the mid-2010s. Most notably, he was presented as a thug and a gangster after showing up to training with a gun tattooed on his leg. But if they'd even bothered to reach out to gain the true meaning of the ink, they would find out that this was in fact not the case, and it actually had a very personal and sensitive message behind it. But no, they did not do that, and preferred to spread gossip and lies to spread their racial agendas. The inconsistency in media treatment of black and white players was also made evident by Raheem Sterling himself, when he highlighted on Instagram how the Daily Mail represented two young Man City Academy players differently for literally doing the exact same thing, which was buying a house for their mum. But there was only one difference between the two players, and I think you can guess what that was. I think in this regard, these tabloids, and in some cases broadsheets, haven't been held accountable enough, as it just continues to happen. It feels as though the footballers that are targeted themselves have to be the voice against this, rather than the politicians or other people in power. Because this won't stop unless we start punishing this behaviour. But these are just a handful of scandals the UK media has been involved in to do with football. So let me know in the comments any that I missed out. Thanks for watching.